Here it is, the call for yet another special session by Tennessee lawmakers. They just can't get enough of each other. You know that? Well, Speaker Saxton said about the extraordinary session coming. For several weeks, we have heard from Tennesseans that have significant concerns over the unconstitutional and burdensome mandates being imposed on them. Representative Johnson, do you agree with that statement, and what do you expect in the coming week?
I do not agree with that statement. There are some folks that are not happy. It is not unconstitutional. You know, this is very frustrating. We are still having the pandemic. It's not gone away. And we know that mitigation factors can help us lessen the number of cases, especially in schools. And I think we're about to set about some legislation to be fighting legal challenges rather than legislation. It's frustrating. I heard so much misinformation just in this past week. My concern for Tennesseans is that they're going to hear more disinformation that is not factual and not correct about the pandemic that is dangerous for Tennesseans' health. I mean, I heard things that were outrageous and not factual and spent a lot of time debunking these things. And we're, you know, Tennesseans are watching this, and we need to give them factual factual information.
Senator Briggs, you have expressed your hesitations about some of the things that Representative Johnson is speaking about right now, but you said you're entering this with an open mind. Explain that and what you want to see come from this.
Well, you know, and I do believe in the efficacy of masks, social distancing, and especially what we need to be emphasizing is vaccines. That said, as representatives of the people, we have to listen to what their concerns are. And there's a lot of people that are concerned about the masks in schools. They're concerned that we need to keep the kids in the classroom. One of the things we have learned is that in-classroom instruction is much more effective than the online instruction. And I just want to say that we are listening to what the public says. And just to remind everyone, the school board in Knox County said that masks were optional, and the governor's executive order number 84 allowed parents to opt out. So I believe that our elected school board and our governor, even though they felt the masks were effective, they did give parents that option. The situation that we're in the state right now is that we've had a federal judge that has ordered the masks to be worn, and now we also have these federal mandates that's coming from the Biden administration saying that businesses have to mandate vaccines, that hospitals, if they don't mandate vaccines, are going to cut off their Medicare funds. Unfortunately, I think, or maybe not unfortunately, but there's very little that we can legislate about federal orders, and Don knows this very well. This is going to have to primarily be handled by our Attorney General by challenging it in the courts or challenging it in the appellate federal courts for this. It's not something that the Tennessee legislature can overturn a federal mandate or a federal order, but the focus needs to be on what we can do with our Attorney General in filing lawsuits and challenging some of these questionable and maybe even unreasonable mandates that are coming from the federal government.
Dr. Briggs, I always hear the old saw when a special session starts that anything can happen. Your party is basically calling the shots with this one. What's too much? I mean, maybe there are some steps to be taken, but what, in your opinion, would be going too far?
Well, I mean, it may not be going too far, but it may be ineffective. I mean, they may pass some laws saying that we won't accept a federal judge's mandate, and that's just not going to happen. Or we may say that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they're the ones that pay the hospitals and the doctors. They reimburse them for Medicare and Medicaid, that they have to do it. Well, they're just going to ignore it. That's only going to be able to be handled by the courts. And I think if we think that we're going to pass some ineffective legislation that'll force the federal government or to force a judge to do something, it's just not going to happen. I think we could pass resolutions saying that we want to encourage the federal government to do this, or we're going to, and already our Attorney General is challenging some of these. So I do want the people in Knox County and the people of Tennessee know that we're listening to them, but that's going to have to be determined by the courts and probably not by the state legislature.
Don Bosch, only about a minute left.
Yeah, Dr. Briggs, how much does a special session cost per day, roughly?
You know, I don't know exactly, but it's
a lot.
In my opinion, the thing is, it's too much for something that may not be very effective.
And I think don't you agree that you just made the best? Go ahead, Gloria. I'm sorry.
I think the 3 days we just did was 119,000.
And Dr. Briggs, didn't you just make a great argument for this is a monumental waste of our money and time, and that probably the best that the Republicans can do are get some resolutions saying we don't like the federal government?
It is, and I do think it's important to point out, and I'm not trying to criticize my colleagues in the House, but this has really been driven by the by the House of Representatives, and a lot less by the state Senate. We're going to listen. I think that you'll see very little legislation initiated by the state Senate. I think it's mostly going to be in reaction to what comes out of the House.
Here's one thing we can count on. Representative Johnson will be active on Twitter this week. We appreciate both of you and your time. Wish you best of luck in this special session in the week to come, and we'll be checking back in. Thank you very much. We're back with our talk around right after this.